Wow. Wow. Okay, are you guys sure you're at the right place? Chicago Music Nexus, because, it's a bunch of DJs that are on time.
Thank you.
Was it the open bar? Yeah. Was it the Malort? Was it the Malort? Thank you. Guys, welcome to Chicago Music Nexus. Make some noise. Just wanted to take a second to introduce myself and Olivia as well, and we want to tell you guys more about why you're here today. So for those that don't know me, my name is Sherman. What up? And what up? And 10 years ago, I entered the music industry. Just some kid from Indianapolis who loved dance music and wanted to start DJing and wanted to see what the future might hold for me. And over these past 10 years, I've experienced a lot of highs and lows, like many of you guys. And there's really only two reasons that I've stuck around. One, of course, the music, especially house music. Music is the best, right? That's why we're all here sitting in these chairs. The second is undoubtedly the community of people that I've met, because this is a really hard job, and we feel like we're alone a lot of the times. And I felt like over the past 10 years, I've been searching for a community, many of which I've found, and these people have inspired me and made me happier than anyone else. But we needed something like this. We needed Chicago Music Nexus to know that you are not alone. Look to your right, look to your left, look in front of you, look behind you. We're not in a line. We're all sitting at the same lunch table. Huge lunch table, by the way, but it's a good time. And again, let me be the first to welcome you to the Chicago Music Nexus community, because this is the beginning of something very, very special. I want to take a moment to thank Olivia. She is one of the most impressive people, period, to work with, and it's been an absolute pleasure. So I want to make some noise for Olivia.
Thank you. Back at you.
Yep. And I do want to say, guys, whether it's your first year in the industry or your 20th, I want to thank you for showing up. Not just for the fans, for the managers, for the promoters, but for yourself. Because you have to be your own biggest fan every single day. So thank you for showing up for yourself, and thank you for being here today. We're going to have a great time. We have some amazing panels. I'll hand it off to Olivia now.
Thank you. I've talked to so many of you, and you guys have come from all over, New York, Maryland, Ohio, California. That blows my mind. If you don't know me, I'm the host of the Elevated Frequencies podcast, co-podcaster with Sherm, co-founder of Chicago Music Nexus with Sherm. And when I talk to artists on my podcast every week, I hear the same struggles over and over. How the fuck do I make money? How do you make money?
That's right.
Good
Repeat
question.
it.
I wish I could tell you. How do I grow my social media presence? And I realized that those are the same struggles I face as an entrepreneur in a completely different but parallel industry. And so when Sherman and I connected, we realized there's no dedicated space for these conversations in Chicago or the United States, quite frankly, and no place where artists could openly approach industry professionals and say, hey, can I ask you a question? Because nobody wants to do that in a club. It's awkward. It's embarrassing. Do any of you consider yourself introverts like me? Right? Show of hands. Yeah.
They won't raise their hand because they're all introverted.
Exactly. And so, this is not about us. This is about creating the resource that we wish we had when we first started. It is about you guys. So ask questions when it's time. Share your stories during the networking hours. Super important. I know it can be awkward, but I saw you guys chatting. You know what you're doing. We just created the space for you to do what you're already good at. So thank you for coming. And I also really want to thank our sponsors for being so incredible, our spouses, our dance music community. Everybody here who's been helping out, the help that we've brought on, cares about the Chicago dance music community, and that is why you're sitting in this nice-ass room. We couldn't do it without any of them, so thank you guys so much. And thank you especially for being here.
All right, everybody. So next up, this one is building your dream team, roles, titles, and strategies. This one I'm very excited about because I feel like it applies to so many of us. These are questions that we ask about, okay, I'm this artist, I have a brand, I have music, but I need some help. So the point of this is how to build a robust team with insights and the best time to hire PR professionals, agents, managers, financial advisors, and how to choose those members that align with your vision. So I want to categorize this panel based on each member's strengths and experience to better understand how they all work together cohesively. So first off, can you guys introduce yourselves briefly and tell us the role that you play on artist teams? We can start with you, Kristin.
Cool.
I'm Kristin Wollam. I'm a financial advisor at Morgan Stanley, and I have a specialization in entertainment and creative industries. So I work with individuals and businesses and helping them do the things that we as artists don't get. Well, a lot of you have day jobs, so building 401ks, planning for retirement, really the boring stuff that we don't think
The fun
about
stuff.
as artists.
This is fun stuff.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so that's my...
I have a 401k.
Great.
Yeah,
Love to hear that.
I do. Damn right. Go ahead, Franz. Yep.
Sorry. Hello. Okay. Hi. Hi, everyone. I'm Franz Hilberath. I own and operate MP3 PR. I also own MP3 Mag, which is a print and national publication serving the festival scene. I also work as an artist manager for Compass Music Group, managing a handful of acts, detox units. So if there's any wooks in the crowd, shout out. But my main gig is I work with Detox Unit, Medusa, Melodic. Check them out. There's some bass music. I know we're in a house crowd, but yeah, my main job is PR. I really work with artists, managers, festivals, even brands on authentic storytelling and really working with artists on what your vision is and what your identity is, and help audit that and making sure it's received the same place in the marketplace, or in this case with your fans.
Thanks, Franz. Bye, Mike.
Hey guys, I'm Michael Sherman. I share a last name with someone else up here.
We are related, yeah.
We are
We got that
related.
elephant out of the room, yeah.
This is not a Nepo music industry thing though. I'm Vice President of Business Development at Feature FM. We're a music marketing technology company. We build things like pre-save, smart links, landing pages. You've seen them, you use them. Talk to me after if you haven't done either of those things. I also own and operate a record label called 2220, which has been operating for about 6 years. We manage a roster of 3 artists, and I have a distribution business as well called 6149 with about 300 or so artists. And we provide services like digital marketing, PR. You need to cover art, mixing, mastering, whatever you need. Basically, we can use our IP from running a label for a really long time to make sure that you have the skills in your pocket that we do as a label in our pocket.
Thanks, guys. So we're going to get started with Mike. Obviously, Mike just explained a little bit about how he's been involved in the business. He's been involved for quite some time. He's been a mentor for me in many ways. And a long time ago, when I first got into this, I was like, I think I'm ready for a manager. I just played a sick open format gig. Like, it was awesome. I know I need help. And he goes, Maddie, a manager needs something to manage. And I was like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I got nothing to manage over here. Mike, can you elaborate on exactly what you mean by that? Because it seems simple, but it's really a lot more complex than that.
Yeah, I mean, working backwards from probably the most boring and obvious thing is that if you make $100,000 as an artist, your manager makes maximum $20,000 that year. And you want all of their time, right? And so just the financial versus the time management doesn't always make sense for a manager. So you don't have to be making $100,000 for the manager to be able to give you their time, but you do have to have something to manage. Like the last panel, do you have fans? Who are they? How are you working them down funnel? Are they becoming super fans? Are they less engaged? Are you managing them, or do you need to outsource it to somebody else who can help you do better and monetize them? Are you touring a lot? Can you not advance your own shows anymore because you're too busy making music because you're putting it in sync libraries and it's making money that way? Does somebody else need to come in and help you there? What do you need help with that you can't do yourself anymore? Because what you're doing yourself is actually pushing your brand forward, and you need somebody in the back end basically doing the housekeeping. Management is not a sexy business. It's thankless, and we all still do it.
We love it.
And we love it. And it's because the artists that we work with want this for themselves. And if they don't want it for themselves, it's really hard to convince us to come on board. And so you really do need to have something to manage, whether it's a financial revenue stream, fans, a touring business, an idea, a makeup line, whatever it is that you're trying to put yourself out there as, there needs to be something for someone else to provide value add and basically provide you insight in areas that you don't know about. Put yourself in rooms with people that know more about things that you don't, especially if you want to expand your management, like your ability as an artist through your manager.
Do you feel like a manager is the first person you need to add to your team as an artist?
Absolutely not.
Okay. Why is that?
Because if the first person you're adding to your team is your manager, chances are you're probably making good money.
Yeah.
And they're hitting you up. You're not hitting them up.
Okay.
And so the people that are going to be on your team before a manager are the people that want to see you grow and are going to be with you for a really, really long time. Hopefully that's your manager. But there's a cliche phrase, which is it's not if you get fired, it's when you get fired. Job security in management is very, very difficult. Lawyers are with artists for ages. Financial managers are with artists for ages through different management. And so building your foundation, right? Like if you're going to build a house, you need to build a foundation. Management is not the foundation. Foundation is registering your business, having a business manager, having a lawyer, helping people understand basically the nuances of the contracts of this business, which have been built to take advantage of artists like you. You need people to help you navigate these things. Don't think you can read a contract just because you have ChatGPT. You can and you should, but you should outsource things that you don't know about to other people. And I think lawyers and financial planners are really helpful because if you do end up getting a manager, it means you're making money, and then the manager is actually joining a team, something that you've built for the manager to manage, which is what we were talking about before.
Yeah, love that. Appreciate that. You kind of mentioned a little bit, are there best practices to follow or avoid when it comes to qualifying an artist? What if you're a manager and you're approaching artists? Like, what's that process like?
Yeah, basically, like, as a manager, I've been a manager for 18 years. I vowed to never do it again, and now I'm doing it again. And that's because artists keep me interested, right? It's like, oh, shit, this is so interesting, whether it's the music, the vision, the brand, how they're putting themselves out there, how they're marketing their entire universe, the world building that we all talk about. That's what keeps me coming back, and that's how I ultimately find artists. And if they're going to build the world without help, imagine what they can do with help, right? So when everyone's coming to a manager saying, I need help, with what? Right?
Yeah.
We need to make sure that if we're going to go work with artists, they understand what their vision is, and it's our job to elaborate, expand, fulfill that vision, but it's not our job as managers to prescribe it to the artist. And so when I'm working and looking at artists, I'm looking for people who are building their own worlds. Whether or not anybody exists in that world yet, neither here nor there. They need to be focused and committed to world building.
Appreciate that. So Franz, your clientele really speaks for itself. I'm going to name drop here because you're the man. You've worked with artists like DJ Diesel, Barclay Crenshaw, and Zed's Dead, just to name a few. And as someone that's recently taken PR a lot more seriously in the past 2 or 3 years, I understand that it's extremely important to an artist's trajectory. It doesn't necessarily always result in followers or fans right away, but it's about exposure. And you really look at your business in 3 different ways. So really like brand strategy, brand awareness, and press relations. Can you tell us about these 3 and how they all work together and what you look for in artists?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I've built my business largely on those 3 pillars to make it digestible for you all. But the first is brand strategy, and it's largely helping artists understand their identity and why they're connecting with people. And starting a business, it's a nervous thing to do. You're getting this idea and you're putting it out into the world. So often we start that just making that first hurdle and thinking, I need to live or die by this idea. And an example I use, I mentioned I run MP3 Mag. Well, that was my first foray into music, and the original brand was MP3DU. Any guesses at what that means?
MP3D, no.
It's okay. No one else got it when I first started it. But the idea was I was a young college kid. What I wanted for myself was really like a door in or someone to help me. So I started with a college magazine, mp3.edu, putting them together.
Wow.
I know, mind-blowing.
Wow.
But regardless of how good your backstory or your intentions are, I can't be in every room, and neither can any good businessman. So you need to have a brand that inherently has a clear understanding and pulls people in. So we ultimately switched to MP3 Mag, music magazine, which is very digestible. But even that you could look at as I'm selling it to a bunch of 18 to 25-year-olds who've probably never bought a magazine. So you really need to 2D your branding flat before anyone can have a chance for you to explain it. Does it pull people in and connect with people? And that's what the strategy part starts with, is really helping them understand you have something you're excited about. Are you conveying it in the right way? And then brand awareness is, again, looking at, if you're just a 2D house DJ, well, that's where the conversation ends. You're just talking to house DJs. Well, I'm here to tell you, you as a person, whether it's your sexuality, where you're from, what you do as a side hobby, that's how you make things 3D and really connect with people. And you have to have the human element. We're all human beings. We're not all house people. We're not all bass people. We're not all DJs. How are you connecting with the everyday person? And if your brand's already niche and you're not looking to expand, you're really handicapping yourself. And the last is press relations. I started in music writing for local newspaper, national magazines and blogs, USA Today. Understanding those timelines, you might have something that's really exciting and all the proof in the world. Well, if you give Billboard a 2-day heads up on it, they're not going to cover it. It doesn't matter how good it is. You have to really work with editorial timelines and treat these people like people who have limited time, limited availability, and they're interested in certain things. And working for somehow over a decade in press has really helped me understand that you have to meet them in the middle and really understand these people and treat them like they're part of the story like you would the fans, and organically they're going to support you the same way.
How have you combated sort of the digital age of press, right? Like you're talking about magazines, just for example, DJ Mag.
Those are still a thing, by the way.
Yeah, they are. They went from monthly to now doing quarterly, I assume because of sales, right? How have you combated that on an even more competitive landscape online?
Yeah, I mean, if I was just pitching you all, I'm going to get you in the newspaper, you'd be like, cool, mom's happy, but what is that doing for my career?
Mom loves it, though.
Mom does love it. It's framed on the fridge, but that's not going to necessarily pay the bills. So we, with MP3 PR, really take a modern approach of we land those things because, look, your super fans, they might not read magazines every day, but they care about you. And eventually they are going to look further. And what we try to do is really create brand ambassadors. And you don't do that by just saying, he has a banger, or Grizztronics came out, check this out. It's this person. This is why you should identify him. This is why they made that song. So we kind of take a more evolved approach as we land that press to create an SEO and online trail. But if we were ignoring social media, content creating, playlisting, YouTube, all brand activations, all these different, not even just media opportunities, but revenue streams, we'd be ignoring where everything's moving. So with PR, it's about understanding. I'm a lowly English major here. Somehow I made it up to the front, though, so shout out English majors.
Let's go.
You really need to understand, just your story and all the different places that can live. And if you just pick one platform nowadays, you're only talking to a very small part of your audience. So evolve, with the times, understand where those stories are being told and tell them everywhere. I mean, it's a lot of times artists are telling me they don't want to promote or do content for themselves. Imagine a business that didn't promote themselves. You'd be sitting there like, okay, I don't care you have the hamburger. I'm not seeing anything about it. There's no pull in it. It's, when you see McDonald's, the second you see that golden arch, you're thinking of fries and this and that. So it's constantly evolving of where you're telling those stories to make sure you're hitting everybody.
Appreciate that. Great insight, man. So, Kristin, for a lot of these artists in the room, they're in the early stage of their careers. It can be difficult to manage expenses. It's something that I think you deal with your entire life, profits, losses, general accounting. What are some things you can actually do really at any stage to set yourself up for success, streamline, stay organized, whatever it might be?
Yeah, I think granted, I'm a financial planner, so I'm slightly biased in saying have a plan. And what I mean by that is, we've talked about merch and marketing and management, and I'm sure someone will talk about gear at some point. So there's all these dollar signs flying at you, and where do you allocate them is the question, I think, early on,
yeah.
Right? So I always like to suggest really taking the time to understand where you are now and where you want to be, and being intentional about how you want to get there. And I'm going to use Olivia as a great example, because I remember sitting at dinner with her 2 years ago, and she told me, I want to make this much money every month doing my own thing. And she's done it. So she set that out. She put that intention in place.
Let's go. How much is it?
And here we
Can
are.
I get some?
So I think it starts so simply as just really, really pinpointing what it is that you want to achieve, and not letting other influences and targeted ads tell you what you should buy instead. Another benchmark that I think is really easy and a nice one to think about when you're debating buying a sample pack or engaging in whatever it is, whatever service someone might be offering to you, I like to use a 5-to-1 benchmark. So if I'm paying something to be at the Nexus conference, for example, can I make a 5 times return on what I'm spending on something? Is that realistic? So if I'm buying, I don't know, a $10,000 sample pack that's pretty expensive, can I reasonably in the next 12 months make $50,000 on that? That might be a good thing to think about in the beginning stages, and then also, again, being intentional, looking backward 1 year later, okay, I spent X amount on this, did I make my return? And I'll give you an example. I went to a music conference 2 years ago. I met a Chicago DJ who's going to be speaking later today, who I'm very excited to reconnect with. She connected me to somebody else who became a client, so that's a great return. Probably a conference I'll go to again. If I hadn't had that connection, that experience, it might not be something I would engage in again. So just thinking about reasonably where can I make money based on what I'm spending, and then also looking backward at what you have spent and was it worth it.
God, that was so good. Thank God we're recording this. So in terms of building wealth, how do you actually help music industry professionals that are current clients? Like, is it investing? Is it thinking about their money in different ways? Where do you start with that?
Well, I think it's helpful to understand my background.
Yeah.
So yes, I'm a boring financial advisor now, but I was way cooler in the past. Retired music supervisor. So you heard Celia speak earlier. She has her music library. She works with you all to aggregate your music. And then, like she said, she puts in all the work to get it out to the right people who are paying for your music. I was that gatekeeper on the other side. So I was on the TV shows or the movies, and I will tell you, to answer Olivia's question earlier, what's the most you've paid for a song? We spent $1 million on a custom song. Granted, it was Fergie, but if you can be a Fergie at some point, you can make $1 million on a song
Where you at,
license.
future Fergies?
Where's the Fergie?
I see you, Nick. You want to be Fergie?
That was emphatic.
Yeah.
So I would say for me it's, sorry, I was telling my background. Music supervisor, loved what I did, but I just saw the struggle that exists probably for a lot of you in this room, and I think there's a lack of resources that causes a desperation in the entertainment industry, and that causes bad competition in a bad way. And so when someone mentioned being kind, having that be your brand, it sounds so simple, but that stands out so much in the long run, because especially in Chicago, it is a small industry, very, very small. If someone says, oh, I'm working with a music supervisor, I say, is it this one, or this one? Those are the three that are here. So long answer long, giving you that background, what I do now, having that context, understanding of what it is to struggle and get to that place where you can be successful monetarily, is I work with people to, yes, invest, which is the obvious thing that people think about when they come to me. How do I make the most money with the money that I'm making over time? And I would also challenge you to use the 5-to-1 benchmark with me. If I'm not beating that, I'm not worth your time. But I also work with people to put things in place like insurance. Not very exciting, but God forbid something happens to you, you're not able to create anymore. Are you still able to generate income while you're recovering, right? So thinking about things that we might not have advertised to us on TikTok. And if anybody is advertising insurance to you on TikTok, do not inbox that.
Yes. Number one.
So investments, insurance, minimizing taxes, which I'd love to talk about that at some point, because there's
Down.
something very relevant
Let's hang out
for
in the
this
corner
room.
and talk taxes.
Taxes, estate planning, wills and trusts, and then, of course, just planning for retirement with 401ks.
I have one.
He has one.
Thank you. Yeah, no, thank you. Appreciate that. So the title of this is Building Your Dream Team, Roles, Titles, and Strategies, right? You just got an idea on the roles, the titles, and the strategies that they all have. Thinking about them cohesively or as one unit, I want to talk about prioritization. I understand all these things now, but what do? I was building my brand, I'm monetizing it, I'm doing all these things. Where do I start? Mike, in your eyes, is it the music? Is it the content? Is it the marketing? Is it being smart with money? Like, where do I start to think about putting myself in a position to build a team?
Yeah, I think something really interesting was said on the last panel, which is do what doesn't feel like work, right? And so if you're going to build a team, prioritize on working with someone who you get along with, that you want to spend time with, that you want to get beers with, like run the beer test. It works. And if you can find comfort in those rooms with these people, like we were saying before, you'll get introduced to other people which may 5, 10, 20x those things. So prioritization is more about who else is being kind to you, I think, and also, so long as you can reciprocate, who can offer mutual value. Managers, lawyers, financial planners, put feelers out to all of them. See who's willing to meet with you first, because the person that you're chasing is probably not the right person for your team.
Love that. What do you think, Franz?
Well, I think you kind of touched on it earlier when we were asking, is a manager the first person you need? It's no, you got to have these things right in-house. And I think you touched on a few. It's like really the music, the story, and the content for me. Is the music's your product. If you don't have music that you're proud to stand by, we're going to have a problem. And then from there, the story is like giving it meaning. It's like you have a product you're excited about. Why don't we give meaning for people to really connect with it and run with that and create something bigger than just a song. And then there's the content. And look, I know we all hate the C word, but content could be a million things. It's not just a selfie video of you talking into the camera. Content is, and I'm biased with an English major, is like they really make you study all the different mediums you can be communicating in.
Yeah,
and that's what I look at with content is, I wish we had another easy word to sub in for that one, but like it's genuinely anything, any tentpole moment you can create to bring back to the product that now has a meaning with the story, and now you're giving it all these different ways for me to fall into it. So you have to promote. It's like I said earlier, if you had a business and you were scared to promote it, well, don't be shocked when no one walks in through the door. You have to have the product, you have to have a reason, and you have to be promoting it.
Agreed. What do you think, Kristin?
What was the question?
They gave great answers. I got a lot, little lost too. And just in terms of prioritization, right? Like, do I need to think, okay, I'm building wealth. I'm trying to build a successful business here. When do I start getting in touch with you? Is there a timeline that you can think about?
That's a tough one to answer. I always think it's good to have a conversation. And I will tell everybody here, I am interested in talking to you. If you want to say hi, I have nothing to say, you just want to shake hands, like I'm available. I have cards if you want to connect with me later on. For the introverts, I'll just put my cards over somewhere and you can grab one. But someone like me is tough. I will have a conversation with everybody. Every single person who wants to, I will sit down and I will give you an hour of advice and guidance, no problem. However, I will say to really gain value from someone like me, I really market myself and focus on high net worth folks. So there is a certain threshold of a starting investment to work with me. So, that's something we can assess and I would tell you in that conversation. But for a conversation, just reach out and ask. And if someone says no, that's probably not someone, like you mentioned, that you want to chase and have on your team anyway.
Well, and I think, like we were saying before, it's a small industry, but we're doing it because we plan to be around doing it for a long time. So if you have that conversation and over the next 3-5 years you become a high net worth individual, it's a much shorter distance between your email and that meeting where you're starting to 5x your monies.
And I've had people too that I meet with and it's not the right point to start working with me because I don't think I could bring them the right value yet. But I say, hey, I'm going to put you on my calendar for a year from now and I'm going to check in with you and I want to know what progress you've made. So having that connection, absolutely.
I was just going to even add is like having these conversations is so important. Regardless of what stage you're at, is you got to get over that hurdle of being able to talk to people. And it's okay if you don't have it all figured out. You mentioned I work with Barclay Crenshaw, Claude and Stroked. I did my first call with his wife 10 years ago telling him, hey, this bass music thing's cool. And they didn't hang up the phone. She's like, sure. Well, last year we chartered his pivot into bass music. And like by doing that first phone call, I figured out what was right or wrong with my pitch. And look, again, like I said with my previous brand, it's like you can have all the reasoning in the world, but you have to put that into the marketplace and talk with professionals like this to understand what's right or wrong. And, very, very, very few people start business with the perfect answer and can walk into any conversation and pull in everybody from business, but largely you learn what you need to change by having these conversations. And, we're very fortunate to be in a room with a lot of people that are open doors to these conversations. I do calls with, whether it's Shaquille O'Neal or a few of you in the crowd, where I have an open door policy. I will always talk to people regardless of what stage you're at. And by being that person for someone else, you can see how helpful that is, because you have to talk about this stuff. Do not think you need to have it perfect when you finally pitch it to somebody. The first person, it might be the highest level person, they usually give you great advice and you know how to pivot. And like with this artist stuff, you need to look at this like a business. And one of the best business tips I've ever received is called the big pivot. It takes a lot of courage to come up with an idea and put it out to the marketplace. The successful businessmen or women in this world are the ones that can take it there, take that lump, and you pivot in the right direction. And you only have that by having these conversations.
Can I add something?
Yeah,
I think
please.
there are 2 seats missing from your dream team that aren't up here. It's your attorney and your accountant.
Agreed.
Yes.
And those folks are going to protect you from day one. So I think those are the pieces of your dream team to have in place as soon as possible.
I completely agree. I've gotten that advice many times. Get a lawyer before you get anything else, because like Mike said, I don't think we need to be convoluted about this. This is a tough business. It's a little dirty business, right? People aren't out to get you necessarily, but they can take advantage of you. I think we've heard many stories about a lot of successful artists that sign these big record deals and they get a fat check, right? And then they have an 8-track deal or 8-album deal or whatever it is, and they're stuck for a long time. And they can lose track along that. So I agree with you. Take that stuff seriously.
And then you see the content from these artists that have signed deals they're not super happy with, basically switching from here I make music to fuck I signed a bad deal. And the reason their content's going that way is because someone didn't explain it to them. And if they didn't ask, that's on them too. But you need to be surrounded by those people that are going to protect you, sometimes from yourself.
Yeah. So we have a lot of experienced individuals. I want to leave room for Q&A. Who's got any questions right now? Yes, sir.
Hey guys, just to make sure you could hear the question, it was, where do I find attorneys and accountants if they're not in this room? Is it as simple as a Google search, or how do I approach these people and where do I find them?
You can send an email to kristin.wollam@morganstanley.com. I have a whole roster of entertainment-focused attorneys and accountants here in Chicago that I would love to send your way. Okay, I have them in LA too.
And I'm
Small
from LA,
industry.
and I was going to say, try and work with people that you can get lunch with or are in your time zone or in your market. Also, local laws make a difference. So try and find people in terms of like tax and law that know your local market.
Cannot say with finance in particular how many people go the H&R Block automated route versus having someone that you can talk to, knows who you are as a human being to really understand that stuff. And look, finance, especially from this English major, not something I particularly love, but again, that's a natural anxiety. It's our ability to overcome that hurdle and have those conversations. And the second you find the right finance person in your life, oh my God, it's a revelation, because you're like, oh, this isn't overwhelming. This is something I can talk about. And you have to build these people on your team. That's what we're talking about, building your team. Is like, I don't know how to do bookings. I don't know how to do finance. I don't know how to do press. That's okay. There are people for that work with you. And you are the owner of your business at the end of the day, and you're bringing on these people to better inform you as a business person of how to run your business.
Yeah, I don't think you should be afraid to say that you don't know what you don't know, because you're going to get much better advice from people that way. It's the people that have a little bit of ego, think they know it, and they go H&R Block, save a bunch of money, but end up getting audited. No one wants that. Right? And so be humble. Know what you know. Admit that you don't know what you don't know, and put people in the room with you that know about things you don't, so you can focus on the things that you want to focus on. And you don't need to be a lawyer or an accountant to be a musician, but you should have them around you.
And I think people are way more receptive to being asked for help than being sold to. So to say to anybody in this room who might live in LA or not, hey, I'm looking for an attorney or I'm looking for an accountant, is there somebody that you like and trust that I could give a call to? I think that's valuable.
Love that. Yes.
And as a follow-up, what is the tipping point for when you actually need an accountant?
I really think an accountant is valuable from day one, honestly, especially if you are at the place in your brand, and this is what I wanted to say earlier, where you are deciding to create an LLC or incorporate. There are different tax implications there, and I'll tell you, not across the board, but something that many people don't realize is you will pay more in taxes as a self-employed person than as a W-2 with your day jobs. So understanding the tax implications of S corporation versus an LLC, it's very different. You'll pay a lot more with one than the other. So having an accountant on your side who understands those intricacies, I think is really important from the jump.
Day one, you're building a business. Yes, sir.
Thanks again, guys, for being here. So you talk about the 5-to-1 ratio, but I think I speak for everyone. It's just like an absolute money pit when you get started. Yeah. And like when I go to something like Miami Music Week, it's kind of like an intangible value of what, like, I'd probably spend like $2,000 the whole week.
Miami, baby.
Yeah, it happens.
It doesn't sound that bad, actually, $2,000 in one
Yeah,
week
that's
for
good.
Miami.
Yeah.
I mean, that's low, but
That's your secret.
So like, how do you, at what point are you balancing like, okay, I'm making money versus saving? Like when do you kind of say like, maybe I should save a bit here, but the startup cost to like get going is pretty high at the beginning.
I mean, if you're living off credit cards, which lots of people do, that is not the point where you should keep spending, for sure. And that's not obvious for everybody. So having a little bit of a cushion for yourself, I like to say put your own oxygen mask on before helping others, but making sure you're going to be okay before you start you want to bankroll yourself before you bankrupt yourself. I like that. Put that on a t-shirt.
That was really good. Cut that.
So yeah, I think this is just me personally, I like to try everything twice. So maybe we go to Miami for a week and we didn't get what we were looking for. We spent $2,000, which you should be up here giving us travel tips on that budget. I might do it again. I might try again and see if I have the same result, and if that's the case, then maybe it's not working, or something about what I'm doing to approach that experience and pay that money isn't working.
I would follow up as well, which is something we all know, is you can't pay rent with impressions. So if you're going to spend money, have a plan for how you're going to 5X it. Don't be like, I'm just going to show up at the club and see who else is there. Find out where people are, make a plan, leave room for spontaneity, but plan to have a plan. Because if you just go somewhere and spend $2,000 and hope it comes back, that is not a plan. It is a good travel discount, but it is not a plan. And so I think, yeah, being able to know who's going to be there, hit people up. Like you were saying before, you went to that conference, you met that person, you'll go back to that conference, hit that person up, see who that person from that conference knows, who else is going to be attending, schedule a dinner. Make it worth your while.
Yeah, there's a bigger question that you're asking here, Blake, is we set up Nexus so you guys could network outside of Miami Music Week. But yes, deals get done, connections get made at places like that where it's just parties. Think about your network. Who do you know that knows this person that's playing at this party? How can I get myself a warm intro? How do I actually make myself known in a genuine way? If you go up to somebody that you don't know, but you know who they are, and you can find middle ground quickly, hey, I'm X artist, I'm friends with this guy, I know you for this reason, just wanted to introduce myself. You would be shocked at how many people appreciate that sort of candor when you come up in a genuine way, rather than like, yo, I'm this person, let me tell you how cool I am. Like, that wasn't an impression of you, by the way. I'm kidding. You do have a deep Canadian voice, so that kind of came up, yeah. But like, that happens all the time. And, sorry, a little stand-up comedy. I struggled with that. I found it so difficult. I was just talking earlier this week. I was on, I don't know if Strategy's here yet. I was on his podcast. And I would just go up to the DJs in Chicago when I came here, and I would just be like, dude, what up? I'm Sherman. I graduated IU. I opened for Audion in the parking lot at my frat, so like I know what I'm doing. You know, it's pretty obvious. You know, the guy's like, who are you, dude? Go get in line, right? That wasn't genuine. I started to reach out beforehand and say, hey, I'm gonna come support. I would love to introduce myself. That approach, which I think you're asking, which is the intangible ROI, is how you actually make yourself known in these places. And it can be hard if you don't have any connections. Look at what I do, little things on Instagram. Look at who that artist is following and see if you're following them, see if you have that connection. Think about the little things.
And I think that soft skill of basically soft selling, like warming up the person you want to get in front of, is really difficult because this is an industry that's trying to get growth exponential every day. And not to shout out another conference, there's one in LA. I just heard about it. I didn't go, but for 2 days, you couldn't tell anyone what you did. You weren't allowed.
Wow.
It's because the industry struggles with this. We're trying to get better at it so we can all have more genuine connections, not transactional connections. So recognize that the person you're probably talking to is also struggling with probably the thing that you're struggling to do.
Yeah, just going to add to that is it comes like the press relations pillar. What I'm talking about is if you're trying to pitch Fisher's manager on opening for him while Fisher's on stage, well, good luck. But having self-awareness of you're a human being too, all right? Like if you're at one of their clients' show, God forbid it's the headliner, like this is a big deal for them. So just because you happen to have this guy sitting next to you doesn't mean, you need to blow your whole load and send him the full elevator pitch. Sometimes, I guess I try
We rented this venue. You say whatever you want, my guy. Yeah.
The worst part is I practiced that line. It was like, I got to work that out. But no, genuinely, it's like, if you're backstage with loud music and they don't know who you are, selling someone your life story, your whole pitch, right then and there doesn't make sense. But don't think that's the end. It's like I said, I met with Barclay Crenshaw over 10 years ago, and I believed in myself, and I knew I'm in it for the long run. So just because one conversation might not go well, I don't put all my investment on that. And it's, if that person's super receptive and you think you can pitch it, great. Have some self-awareness, which takes some time. Like I said, put yourself in uncomfortable positions. Put yourself backstage talking to those people. But don't overextend yourself. Just realize that connecting with a human being and having them remember your name is just, if not more important than them remember your sales pitch. And then you can follow up with that. And, something from PR is I'm reaching out to people all the time. Well, I'm following them on social media first, or finding the piece that brought me there. Or when I'm reaching out to them, like, hey, I really enjoyed your article, or what you did with this artist is really impressive. Are you doing that? Or are you so nervous you're just spilling out your guts of, I like your music, I do this music too. It's... You really want to be calculated. Remember, we are human beings. You don't need to, spill your guts and say what you do right away. You're who you are, Connect with that person on that level, and that's the people I work with. Is I have bigger clients or smaller clients that have impressive stuff. I don't necessarily feel I have to work with that. I work with a lot of great people. I work with the people that make a difference to me. Like this guy back here is, someone that personally reached out to me and made a difference, showing like, hey, I do this, I care about this, I want to do this, and like, okay, cool, I want to support that person, rather than you sold me on whatever sales pitch while I'm pretending to hear next to a speaker.
Yeah, and Blake actually does an incredible job at this. He gave me and many people a $5 bill that was his $4 bill, $4 bill with his face on it. He's got him right here. You want to talk about marketing? This guy literally just gives you money. You're like, sick. And then you're like, wait, this is his face. And
I'm not too good to take money.
Yeah, right?
So cool.
It's usable in Miami. But things like that, how can you make a quick impression and stand out? And again, it's like, I know it's very hard sometimes because it's a loud environment. You might not be comfortable. You might have shown up by yourself. But as someone that has done that, and many people that have done that in the industry, that have been in the industry for a long time have done that, we see that right away, and we respect that, and we remember you. And if you keep following up and being genuine, you will make yourself known. Don't expect to blow your load on the first. I had to. On the first conversation with these powerful people. So it's a little more simple than we make it out to be. We'll do one more quick question. Yes, Andy, I know you had one. Go ahead. Just in case everybody heard, newer artist taking it more seriously, has a job, the hobby has become a passion, the passion is trying to become a career, he wants to build it into something.
Yeah. The question that I heard was, should I build an LLC? Should I establish an LLC? And my answer is absolutely. Yes, there could be some costs associated. If you are just generating money on your own, you already have a business entity, it's called a sole proprietorship. No big deal. But an LLC, the biggest difference between a sole proprietor and having those couple letters after your company name is protection from a legal perspective. So if you are out on a gig and someone gets hurt and it was your fault, right? You might have more protection in just having your company assets at stake rather than your personal assets at stake. So yes, there might be a little bit more cost. Yes, there might be a little bit more paperwork, but you're starting to separate your business from your personal life from a financial and a legal standpoint.
I was just going to even add to that is starting with that framework rather than thinking, I'm not full-time business or this isn't a business. I've had clients that have been in and out at LLCs and now they get booked for 25 dates and they've been doing everything through their personal and now commingling that, and it's a whole nother, headache in terms of managing that. So with all my business and what I advise with artists is, obviously talk to a non-English major about starting your business. That's my first advice I give all of my clients. But secondly, it's like start thinking in this like a business where now you are looking at the 5 to 1s or looking at your expenses. You're keeping track of that. You're not commingling that. And, if you're going out and have at least the inkling of this, is starting an LLC is, depending on which state. I'm from Florida, very cheap. California, very different. But like starting with that framework, you're now treating this like a business versus, oh, this is my hobby. It might be a business.
And I've made this mistake by not starting LLCs when I should have. And decoupling that stuff once things start to pick up. You want to focus on shows and all the other things. You do not want to be digging into your accounts at that time, trying to figure out where you didn't pierce the corporate veil. It's easier to do it up front. You set up the foundation, and basically it has all the additional protections. But also you can probably take more chances because it's not you as an individual on the line.
I think, too, marketing and branding, right? You have an extra layer of professionalism rather than using your Gmail address when you're reaching out to people. There's an air of, I'm established. Fine, no offense.
Yeah, and I don't like it. I agree.
Okay. I thought you were saying you have a Gmail there.
I do have a Gmail.
Okay, great.
And a 401k. They go hand in hand.
I would also say that there's a lot of technology out there that can help, right? Like if you're not using QuickBooks, use QuickBooks. When you find an accountant and you go, hey, I think I need you, and the accountant goes, well, what are you working with? And you go, QuickBooks, you're going to blow their socks off, right? It's people want to be met where they're at. Accountants use QuickBooks. Use QuickBooks, find an accountant, they'll be happy. Additionally, a lot of people are distributing music through different distributors. Money's all over the place. You're getting stuff from TikTok and Instagram and socials and brand. There are other services out there now. There's a big fintech movement happening in music specifically, built for creators. One company is called Mogul. Another is called Notes. I'm not vetting them or co-signing them, but they are purpose-built for music creators that are trying to get a handle on their finances. And so if you need an app that's intuitive and inexpensive to basically help you figure out the things you don't know so that you can sign up for QuickBooks and find an accountant, it's a pretty good starting point. And I think there's a huge trend in music and creators where financial literacy is something that we didn't really put a lot of emphasis on. And now there's companies that do, but they branded it cool, so we signed up.
Love that. We have time for one more question. I know there was some in the back here. Yes, back here, Thomas.
The last question was about the 5 to 1 return, especially when it relates to PR, specifically with upcoming artists. What are some strategies that the panelists have seen success with, or some stories that they can share about the beginning stages for a career?
Yeah, sure. So like I said, I kind of established myself really building with electronic acts, and sure we get to do Shaquille O'Neal, but it's a similar principle of, I have a lot of artists come to me like, all right, cool, I'm ready for press. I want a couple links. I'm like, or I want a few playlists. And that's not what my company does. We really take an audit of your artist brand. And I pulled this from one of my favorite authors, Donald Miller, who has Building Your Story Brand, which really helps you look at your fandom and your brand in like a story format. So we kind of like help audit that from the jump, whereas like, who are your fans? Are they just house fans? Like, what is it? Where are they? Who are they? Why are they connecting with you? So, again, we could start that from an underground artist or Shaquille O'Neal when he's pivoting into dubstep music. It's, it looked like to a lot of people, like a celebrity act dipping into it. Well, what they don't know is that he's been DJing since he was 17. In 1988, DJing in the locker room for the LSU basketball team, and he was doing it on turntables, and he has 2 platinum-selling hip-hop albums, and he's toured the world. And beyond that, that gives him more pedigree, but like when he retired from the NBA in 2014, he put on 50 pounds, which Shaq can add pounds, people don't know, but he was over 400 pounds, depressed, and managed by a team that was just putting him on the Vegas celebrity circuit. And he's like, I'm a man of the people. That's why Shaq works with Walmart or the General or the 20 million brands that he works with, is he really wants to serve. He used to work with Reebok. He went shopping one day, and the lady told me, great, you ruined my son's ears because I can't afford to buy your shoes, and you're our favorite athlete in the house. And he dropped the Reebok deal that day, $40 million, and started making shoes with Walmart. And it's like, you can do what the easy dive is, but it's like, why are you really connecting with people? And if you're going to short sell yourself to constantly just do what you think's trendy or what people want, that might work now, but if we're trying to, like everyone in this room, I'm assuming you're coming out here on a Saturday, you want to make a career of this. It's like, why would people support you so long term? They're going to invest not just a ticket, they're going to have their friend buy a ticket, they're going to buy merch, they're going to buy your music when they don't have to do it anymore. You really need to have a clear-cut story, and it doesn't matter if you're Shaquille O'Neal or an underground DJ playing your local circuit. It's, are you connecting with people on the levels that your brand really is speaking to them?
I would also, I think it begs the question, like, why do you want press? Right? Like, what are you looking for? Because it doesn't give you what it used to. It doesn't move the needle in terms of growing fans. It grows optics and visibility. So if you're going to get press, be aware that you're not going to have more people at your next show, most likely. But you do have more on your one sheet to pitch to Spotify or whoever else you're pitching to. There's an optics element to it. So take what you want and get what you need. If you want press, try and get understanding of who's actually hitting that page. Give them a Hyped It download, a Feature FM link, get their email addresses, figure out who's engaging with it, because if you don't, you're just basically pissing in the wind, not towards press.
No, absolutely.
But you really should know who those fans are that are engaging with it, because otherwise it's basically a loss leader.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, there's so much noise. I mean, you guys all heard 50 to 100,000 songs come out a day. Like, there's so many of these very basic level things you could just be jamming there. Oh, I got on EDM.com. It was like, is there a story there? And have a full company, running PR, and I will be the first to tell you getting a blog post is not going to change your career. The optics can help you a lot, whether it's on the management level, the agent level, helping get the word out, but it's what's in there. Are we just getting them to say this is a cool track, or is it, the real story's there? And is it translating to socials? Is it getting on their playlists? Are we doing the YouTube? Are we doing the podcasts that people are talking about? Are we, and then from there, it's like really dialing in. It's like, I'm not going to just do every podcast. Like, I might, for a promoter client, want to talk to Olivia because her audience is more discerning about what the industry is doing. And I wouldn't put them on an artist-producer podcast because it's the wrong audience. So just because you have a link or a cosign from someone, if it's not speaking to your brand, it doesn't really do anything for you. So you have to, evolve with where the mediums and those conversations are being having, and make sure you're having a genuine conversation with people.
But I do think you called out something really interesting and difficult to navigate, which is 5X on press is a really hard thing to eke out and understand, because it's not necessarily a direct line from I invested in press and I made more money this year. So it's your responsibility to eke out that 5X on press. If you're going to do press, in my opinion, the best way to do it is underline it with ways to capture your fans' data. So you have them after the press campaign ends. You do a 3-month press campaign, you have 1,000 fans, you can sell them 50 tickets at $100 each, just 5X your press return.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have people all the time, they're like, where's the KPIs on this? And when I first got into PR, I swear to God, this was the tagline, is nothing in press is guaranteed. I'm like, I got the right business. But it's like, in my mind, is we're all doing this for a purpose. If it was something that we didn't have something to talk about, you all would be doing day jobs 9 to 5. You wouldn't be here. You'd probably be doing bottomless mimosas or something along those lines. Is I often ask artists, creatives, promoters, brands, why are you doing this? And every single passionate or creative person has a great answer to that. And I'm like, cool, I'm a fan. Pull that up for me online. Find one place I can find where your brand story is. Most artists can't find that. So, again, it's about, like, I'm serving the super fan with a lot of the more press content. We do optically things like playlisting, YouTube, podcasts, content creation, all things you have to do. But what I care about is the storytelling, and when fans do buy in, is there anything for them to buy in further? And, with hip hop, that's inherent. With, artists' albums and commentary, well, when we're making beats, you have to be the voice. So what is out there for your story? Can people connect with you? Whether it's articles, playlisting, your social voice, find something that people connect with you. And that's, I think, the intangible value we have, is we help you understand, why are we doing this, and are we really conveying that, and does it align with our goals?
Yeah. A lot of good points there. I think what I'm hearing is your story ready to be told? if you release your first song and you're like looking to get press on that and people say, wow, this is really cool, what else are they about? And you don't have much to show for it. You got to think about building up your story over the course of time. And when it comes to press, timing is very important in my opinion. I've been working with somebody in press for the past 3 years, and I work with them. Shout out to Petey. I work with him. He's been helping us too. I work with him on a monthly retainer, right? But I didn't reach out to him until I really had a story to tell. I have podcasts. I have touring. I have Chicago Music Nexus. I'm selling a lot of different things that I need his help on to get me in front of the right people. I don't expect these things to come back to people coming to my shows, to people streaming my music. I expect that it helps me tell my story so that these people who do find me can see what I'm doing. Because I can't tell my story like they can sort of tell it for me, right? So that's where I've finally found ROI on press, because it's been a confusing thing for me. I know it's a gray area, right? It's like, what's the point of this? Because I paid all this money and I got a post and then I didn't feel anything. It's not about that. You got to have a catalog, a backlog, a plan for the future too. That's very important. What's coming next?
I was just going to add to that is press doesn't create the story, it amplifies it. So you need to have a story that connects with somebody intangibly, and then I can work with that. And I can also work with you helping develop that story, but you have to have something there. You don't go to press and be like, I need people to start talking about me. I'm going to go get a couple links. It's like, do you have something that's worth talking about?
Yeah.
And something just to add to that with branding in general, it's like, think of your brand again flat, like I was saying with MP3 to you, is can you see that brand headlining your local marquee, your dream venue? Okay, great. Can you see it headlining Red Rocks on one of those cool curated posters? Awesome. Can you see it headlining Electric Forest? Now, not everyone in this room's goal might be to headline Electric Forest, but just be in tune with what your vision and goals are, and does that brand speak to those goals? Yeah. Is it big enough to invite 10,000 people into one room? Or is it more fit to be the local scene? And all of those things are fine. There's success in all those different sizes, but you really need to think of your branding of whether, trying to think of it on a street corner, like a fast food place, of like, how am I getting people in when I'm not in the room? And like, all of you people are showing up. You're clearly like, at least putting initiative in there and comfortable enough to talk to people. You're not in every room. So make a brand that you're really comfortable about that speaks a story without you being there. Now you have something really impressive.
Love that.